more folks will log in. We'll welcome them as they do. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. And I just want to start off by extending a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today for this panel discussion, where you'll have an opportunity to hear from 3 of our past and current Stanford LEAD program participants who have volunteered their time to share a bit about their program experience and their outcomes with all of us. So we have Adrian, Sunny, and Tiffany joining us today. And thank you to each of you for being here. And in a moment, I'll turn it over to you to tell us a bit more about yourselves. But just to introduce myself briefly as we get started, my name is Marina, Director of Stanford LEAD. And I have the sincere pleasure of supporting this wonderful program along with an amazing team of colleagues, some of who you see are on the call with us here today. And I'm looking forward to moderating today's discussion as an opportunity to share with all of you just some of the stories and the feedback that our team at the Graduate School of Business hears so often from participants. And before we dive in, I just want to start off with a little bit of context. Stanford LEAD is the university's flagship online business program. It's taught by the same faculty who teach the Stanford MBA. And it runs over a period of 1 year. It's fully online. And for nearly 10 years now, it's provided a very rich and transformative learning experience for just thousands of individuals from all different parts of the world, different functions, different industries, who have really used it to upskill, to really spike the trajectory of their careers, and just elevate their impact, both within their organizations, but also within their industries and more broadly within their communities as well. So I know that many of you on this call are actively thinking about the next steps in your own professional development journey. And I hope that you'll find the discussion that we have here today useful as you explore how LEAD is going to help you achieve your goals. And we'll begin the discussion by asking the panelists just a few questions about their experience and outcomes. And then in the second half of our time together, we'll open it up for questions from all of you as well. So remember that our panelists were in your shoes not too long ago, considering enrolling in the LEAD program themselves. And I'm sure that there are things that you're curious about that they can best speak to as folks that have been through it themselves firsthand. So if you have any questions, go ahead and enter those in the chat as we go through the session. You don't have to wait until we get to the Q&A portion, and we'll select as many as we can to get to during our time that we have here together today. Now, if you're scrolling through the chat and you see a question that you want to hear about too, you'll see that you can give it a little reaction. You can give it a thumbs up or use a different emoji. Go ahead and do that. That'll give our team some indication of the level of interest in the different questions, so then we can prioritize the ones that have more interest to get to during our time together. And finally, as I mentioned, we do have some of my colleagues from the LEAD team here as well. You'll see Jeff, Jess, Justina, and Laban on the call. If you have any questions that are a bit more administrative in nature, whether it be about the program requirements or the application process or whatever it might be, you're welcome to put those in the chat too. We'll respond to those in writing just so that we can save the live conversation time for a discussion with the panelists and their experience. But with that, would love to go ahead and get started. And I want to just open it up by giving each of our panelists the opportunity to tell us a bit more about themselves and why they chose to enroll in LEAD. So Adrian, thanks again for making the time to be here, and let's go ahead and start with you.
Thank you, Marina. So my name is Adrian. I'm come from Zurich, Switzerland. It's currently very snowed in. I'm Chief Technology Officer at Silencio. It's a cyber prevention company. We offer cyber prevention services, and this is a true outcome of LEAD that I ended up there. So my background, a little bit more than a year ago, I actually by coincidence signed up to LEAD. I was listening to Think Fast, Talk Smart. My wife calls me myself a fanboy of Matt Abrahams. And that took the decision to go there, and for sure not something I regret. Something you need to know about me, I was a C-level leader for a while, but I'm also a lieutenant firefighter in a small municipality. It's a volunteer firefighting organization. Yeah, that's it about me in a nutshell. And I hand over to Sunny.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adrian, and thanks, Marina, for hosting us. And thank you, everybody, for joining in. My name is Sunny Dua. I was a part of a lead in 2020. That's when I started, and I finished my lead program by 2022. So I took some time, and then I also went through the Distinguished Scholar program. And I finished lead and the Distinguished Scholar, but I'm still connected to lead, and I'm doing one more course coming quarter. By professional introduction, I'm a director of product management at Splunk, which is a part of Cisco now. Been in the industry for close to 21 years in and around software and enterprise and cloud. Of course, the reason I chose lead was I really hit a ceiling in my career. I remember when I was in India, I was a consultant back there, moved to Singapore, and then finally got an opportunity to move to the US and was working as an individual contributor and was always called a star contributor in the organization. But there was something missing, and I'll talk about that later. There was something missing, and I was trying to hunt for that. And then is when I found Lead. I found some leaders who had already went through the program, spoke to them and learned about the courses. And I thought, this is what I want to give a shot. And here I am, and I'm happy to share what I've learned from the program and how my life has transformed because of that. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. I am Tiffany. I am currently at a AI startup called Wayfound, leading design and marketing, which was a leap that I took from the lead program. I was part of the Trailblazer cohort that just recently finished up, and that was an amazing journey. Before that, I was at Pendo, leading their global team of design, product design, brand, and research. And before that, Salesforce, where I went, that was where I fell in love with management and leadership in that way, and trying to push into places that had never had user experience. So helping the developer productivity and where my team could have a very small impact that rippled through the 70,000 person company. Previous to that, I was at IDEO working on everything from the future of beer to the future of aging, like how does our food impact how we live our lives. What? Sorry. And so I got to a point where I learned a lot on the job, and I'm always a continuous learner, but there was always a point where I would get into different arguments with my CFO, and I wanted to have a more core fundamental understanding of how those numbers got into my budget spreadsheets. Yeah, I knew how to allocate it after that. I didn't know exactly how to fight for my own team as well as our customers, and making sure that I could speak in the same language as my C-suite. And so that was one of the reasons I picked lead. It's also because I am in San Mateo. It's about 20 minutes from my house. So if I wanted to join in on Me2B or any of the views from the top, I can just hop over there and join in on the fun. And that has been so much fun, and I'm sure I will talk more about it soon. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's great to hear a little bit more about each of you, and thank you again for taking the time today. So I want to transition into a few questions, and I see some questions coming in from the audience as well, which is great. And we're looking forward to getting to those in just a moment. But for those of you that are on the call that are familiar with Stanford GSB, you all will know our motto is to change lives, change organizations, and change the world. And our programs are really designed to deliver impact. So with that, I would love to take a moment to focus on all of your outcomes from the program. And I see some questions in the chat focused around that as well. Can you each tell us a bit about how LEAD has impacted you both personally and professionally, how it's impacted your organizations that you're part of? And Sunny, for this one, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, do I have an hour to talk about this?
Just a couple minutes for now.
All right. So if I was thinking about this, I'm sure you would ask this question. And I was thinking of the analogy of prism, right? If you see a ray of light, you can just pass it on, you will see a single color. But as soon as you pass it through a prism, you suddenly see the phenomena of having dispersion, which creates 7 different lights and colors. And that to me is lead. When I went through the program, it basically helped me uncover a lot of my superpowers. It helped me understand or made me self-aware of myself. And at the same time, more than words, allowed me to apply what I learned on a daily basis into my job. So where I was working at that time, I was giving an example. The strategy course, which I was doing, really helped me understand how I can start crafting a strategy using a framework like a PARC framework, which is taught in the program itself, and leverage that to go ahead and present that strategy to our leadership. Where I was seen as an individual contributor, suddenly everybody realized and had a lens on me, which was like, oh, this guy is thinking beyond his job and thinking about the broader organization. That's one example. The second example was how I transformed my communication style from being an employee to being a business owner. And there's a huge difference when you present yourself in that way. When you start thinking about the courses like business model and design, you really understand that business is not just about building products or services. It's about understanding profitability, value creation, logic of your strategy. And these are the concepts which at least gave me the talking points which I could present in front of my leadership. And very quickly, they realized that this person should be given a role and scope which is beyond the current position. And that's another concrete example of how it started to change the lens of how I was being perceived in the organization. Yeah, I'll pass
great.
it on to the next speaker.
Thanks, Sunny. Tiffany, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think one of the biggest things that LEAD has impacted me, um, both professionally and personally, is it gave me the tools to connect the dots between um, my far past and the way that I lead today. Some of that came out of Power to Lead, but really a lot really clicked together in taking the new type of leader and living the life of consequence courses where you have to dig in super deep and reflect on yourself. And I'm someone that kind of tackles something and then moves on to the next thing to tackle. And this was reflecting back on the last 20, 30, I don't want to say how many years, about how work has gone, or even personally, like what are those moments of celebrations where I just kind of moved it aside. But looking back, it's like there were so many different things that I've accomplished, like these kind of grand milestones, and seemingly mundane memories that in hindsight are really valuable in shaping who I am today. Um, and having that key moment of, oh, that's kind of my purpose, like how I want to help other people that are in a similar situation gain the skills and the knowledge to move forward in their careers is super valuable to me. It gives me more of a fire to push forward. I mean, even in the AI space, how do you keep that humanity in there? How do you make sure that we're not replacing the horses with the cars and we're the horses, right? In this new era, um, how do we help the human spirit move forward? And so I feel like LEAD connected some of my past memories with what I'm doing now, and to think critically about every single thing that I do. And it's even like mapping out what are all of the different possibilities so that I can make a better decision. And I think that ultimately makes me a more reflective leader, stronger critical thinker, and someone that's not afraid to bring that voice into every decision. Like, speak up. You have that power. It's up to you to use it. And so that's kind of how it's affected me professionally, and like I even in dealing with people that I deal with on a daily basis, they've noticed a difference in how I'll react. Not that I'm more combative, but I will bring up things that normally I would just let go, right? And if they're important, it's important to get it out right now.
Thanks, Tiffany. Adrian, how about you?
So for me, I mean, I did the same courses like Tiffany did. We actually did some together. Thank you for the summary. It goes in the exact same direction. Tiffany and I even had fun on some modules together, so it was great. And thinking about like connecting your life together was for me a really mind-bending thing. So my firefighting, for example, I never put that in my introduction. That was something that just happened by coincidence as well. It was somehow kind of like going along with me, but I also realized it helped me to accelerate my career professionally. And LEAD helped me to actually combine these things together and tell me like how I'm thinking about prevention services and security and how this is actually a holistic view I have about my life, and creating a life of consequence, being purpose driven, having that purpose helped me then to find that job. And then I actually quit my job, my previous job, and I used the last two modules to make a decision-making framework to land the right job for me, and then also using building power to lead them to have the right punch to hit it, to get it when I'm there. So lead for me was really about like reflecting, where do I come from, who am I, where do I want to go, and to boost my confidence levels of the things that I somehow trained on the sidelines, but I'm actually good at, and making a realization about that, what I've learned before.
Yeah, I really appreciate all of you sharing. It sounds like there are some outcomes that one would expect from a professional development program, and then some that are a little unexpected. And I think some of those unexpecteds are what makes LEAD very special as well. As you all know, the program offers a very unique learning environment. It's anything but your typical online program. And lots of people come into LEAD having done quite a bit of research first, like the folks on the call are doing today. And yet there are still things that might come across as a surprise as you're actually going through the program yourself. So I would love to ask for each of you to share just what you found most surprising or unexpected about the program experience. And Tiffany, for this one, would love to start with you first.
Sure. It surprised me that how accessible everyone would be, right? You have access to these world-class professors and a world-class network of CFs and peers that are involved in every single different industry possible. Chances are, if you're working on something, there are a ton of people also working on that same thing, and they're so willing to help. If you have any kind of struggle, one of my most fortunate things is landing on an orientation group that, I mean, I just had dinner with them last night. So shout out to Team Grit if you're here. And it's like a support network and an amazing group of people that want to change the world, that want to make things better for themselves and for each other. And so I think that is one of the biggest surprises. And each of the courses, you're grouped with a different group of people that could be your next best friend or your boss or your next co-founder of a company, and that has been so exciting to experience, like a whole different world. Being in the tech community, I feel like there's certain bubbles that you just hear the same echo chamber over and over. It kind of breaks free of that, and you kind of hear a perspective from all over the world. Um, like we saw on the call today, people are here from all over the place. And so I think that is one of the biggest surprises. And Me Too We, seeing people in person is just an incredible experience. And I think that these are friendships and colleagues that I'll have for a really long time.
Thanks, Tiffany. And I think since Me Too We has come up a couple of times already in some of the conversations, maybe I'll just speak about it very quickly for the group that's here. As you all know, LEAD is delivered fully online in terms of the program requirements, and the participant community takes so much initiative to sort of take those online connections and translate them to in-person connection opportunities. That, of course, takes place at all times of the year in different parts of the world, but also there's an annual tradition that was started by the very first group that completed the LEAD program back in 2016, the Pioneer cohort, who created an on-campus reunion celebration event that all leaders are welcome to participate in. We're looking forward to hosting the 10th one in 2025, and that event is called Me to We. It's created by and for the participant community. So as you hear it come up here, you have a bit of context into what that is. Thanks so much, Tiffany. Adrian, would you like to share about something that surprised you?
Definitely also the accessibility. So I wouldn't see myself as the greatest networker. I'm very passionate about engineering, coding, and talking about these stuff. And that's usually not really the opener in parties. But I mean, it's so also like the exchanges that I had with Tiffany. We had some. It was a new type of leader, anchored on purpose, fueled by humor. We had a similar idea. We jumped on a call. We're brainstorming ideas, and it was so fascinating to see like how experienced people you can meet, and like they have like so much wealth of knowledge, and they just kind of like they get in touch with you, you talk with them, you're on eye level meetings. It's that was really the best part. And of course I was able to talk to Matt Abrahams on the phone, so that was also great for me.
That's awesome. Matt is a huge fan of the LEAD program as well, and is involved in some of our programming too. Sunny, how about you?
Yeah, I think we talked about the accessibility to the staff and the professors. I think there's more which I found, which I would want to share. One is, of course, when I entered the cohort, I was surprised to see that people were from, 60 different countries. And I was like, really? I thought everybody would be from local Bay Area. And I think there's some questions as well. Is it useful if I'm not in the Bay Area? I can tell you that out of all the leaders which have gone through the program and what they're doing today, I found a lot of people who were remote being more successful with the program and being more involved. I think it's also the syndrome of if you have it something next door, you don't really care. But if it's a little farther, you care more. And that's what has happened. I can see leaders traveling, meeting each other, doing a lot of different things by bringing the community together. And they belong to all over the world, from Nigeria, from India, from Dubai, and I can name every country it feels like every country on the map. The second thing which I would want to add is the passion in these people, right? I mean, it's one thing to come and do a course, right? Any online course or even in-class course. But with the passion which each one of them bring along with themselves is just, it rubs onto you and it charges you in different ways. And that creates, the neural network of everybody smart in the room, talking about, being passionate about things they're doing, supporting each other and being in a growth mindset. Which is absolutely fabulous. That's the kind of energy you can get from the program, you can give to the program, and then you can carry it along in your personal lives and professional lives. So that's the second thing. And I think the third thing I want to talk about is also the fact that the aura of talking to a GSB professor, it's like, oh my God, I'm talking to God. Absolutely not. I mean, they're so fabulous that they're happy to change their minds of years of learning and teaching if you come up with an opinion which is different. So the growth mindset is not just for students, it's also for the professors. And I've seen them changing the curriculum, changing the use cases, evolving them based on what's happening in the market. I remember COVID hitting the market, or having the Silicon Valley Bank about to go out of business. All of those became current topics immediately based on the feedback from students, and those were prioritized over any other use case. So it's not just learning an MBA course and looking at use cases from 50 years old. It's about current evolution of what's happening in the industry. And to be able to do that and connect with people who are doing this on a daily basis is absolutely fabulous. And that's the reason I finished lead, I finished distinguished scholar. I'm still looking for more courses to do, and I'm doing one next quarter just to be connected.
So thank you all for sharing. I mean, we do often receive questions about the quality of the connections that folks can make in LEAD, because given that it's an online program, that often comes with a stigma that you're sort of isolated, doing the program solo and going through it yourself, and it's reflected in some of the questions we got here today too. And so we'll dig into those pieces a bit more later as well, because it sounds like there's interest from the group in terms of how do you connect with your peers, and how accessible are the faculty? Do you actually get faculty interaction time? So I'm looking forward to digging into that in a bit. But speaking of the participants that enroll in LEAD, the folks that enroll in LEAD are typically mid to senior career professionals. They're leading very busy lives, as are each of you, as we heard in your introductions, with everything that you're working on. And so you have lots of both personal as well as professional commitments. Now, the program is certainly designed with this in mind to offer flexibility so that you can weave it into your day-to-day schedule. And in my conversations with participants, it's very clear that everyone sort of has their own way of making it work based on their own context. So I just want to ask all of you if you can share some insights with us into how you made it work with your schedule and commitments, especially for the folks that end up enrolling. Hopefully some of your tips will be helpful to them to hear. And for this one, Adrian, let's go with you first.
So this was, of course, a hard one. It is busy. You get even more busy. Life is busy. And you have to stick to your plans. So I planned out the thing like weekly planned, and I really tried to stick to it. And I also asked my peers to account for it, and we checked in regularly and tried to push us to the max. I canceled all my video subscriptions, so that was important. Still have, so still time for more learning. And the more you put into LEAD, the more fun it gets. So first you think like, oof, it's a lot, and then and then you realize it's so much more fun when you put in more, and then it kind of like starts to energize you after a while, and then it kind of like you really get into it, and then you want to spend all your time looking at the videos, exchange with your peers, and then it kind of like becomes more or less like a self-runner. So. But at the beginning, it was not to underestimate. So it's kind of like it has to be a very deliberate decision. But then it's also like when you're done with it after 12 months, it's something you can be proud on. Yes.
Thanks, Adrian. Sunny, how about you?
Yeah, I can take some time on this one, but I'll try to be quick. So I think the first thing is set expectation with family, right? Because you will be spending weekends. So, and having your family support you with this is the best thing you can do. And then obviously once your family supports and you go through the LEAD program, let your family member be. And that's what I'm doing. My wife is now going through LEAD. And it's so awesome that now I can see what she felt when I was busy on the weekends. But one thing I would want to kind of decipher the word busy as well. I was very busy when I joined LEAD. I was working my ass off like 12 hours a day and best performer, blah, blah, blah. But I realized after going through some of the programs, like I was going through a program or course with Professor Baba Shiv, where he talks about neuroscience and leadership, where he's trying to connect a mind and body connection to make you a better leader. And during that course, it talks about, hey, go spend some time working out, making the right hormones in your body to make sure that you're not stressed all the time. And the first thing which he teaches in that course is busy is the new stupid. And he's absolutely right. I can tell you now, after LEAD and after following what I learned from the program, I'm less busy. I can do things which people question me in my own organization. How are you such a good leader? You're doing well in your career. You're doing these 5 initiatives. Yesterday night, I was sleeping out for a donation program. I'm running a nonprofit for planting 1 million trees with the LEAD community together and all that fun stuff. And it's so much fun doing that because at the end of the day, as I think Adrian said, you start finding the purpose, the meaning of your life, rather than just running after the next promotion, the next movement, the next bonus, etc., etc. So it's a combination of all of these things, and time will be you will treasure the time, is all I can say. For startups, you will spend around 6 hours to 12 hours in a week. What I did was I did not finish the course in 1 year. I took 1.5 years. So I did, on some quarters, I did a single course, and that helps as well, especially when if life happens. So that is another small tip I can give to people. Sorry, I took more time.
That's okay. It's a great tip to end on. Most folks traditionally finish the program in 1 year, but you certainly have options to sort of scale back your weekly commitment and extend that up to 2 years. So don't hesitate to reach out to our team if you want to learn a little bit more about that, and we're happy to chat about it. Tiffany, how about you?
Much like Adrian and Sunny, my life before Lead was full. I have a husband and 2 young kids, 6 and 10 now, and a career that required me to travel quite significantly, like once or twice a month, right? And so on top of that, I decided to launch a YouTube channel, Kakoi AI, if anybody wants to see, where I shared experiments on AI. And it was a new tech that I was really interested in sharing what I was doing. And then I also wrote a children's book, The Ballad of Magenta, about growth mindset and roller skating. Semi-autobiographical fairy tale of my life. So my plate was really packed. Um, it's a funny story I'll share with you is my orientation group got together with all of the spouses, and they asked this question, "Oh, Tiffany, you were doing all these things, like how do you do that?" And I didn't even get to answer. My husband says she doesn't sleep. So I definitely lost quite a lot of sleep. It's amazing how little sleep you can get by on with when you really want to achieve something. I love the idea of spreading it out, having one course at a time, especially like courses like business model analysis. I felt like was double the amount of work of any of the other courses. So that's a tip. Maybe take that one by itself. If you want to get the most out of it and read all of the extra things. But just trying to find ways to maximize my time. I'm a very active person. I love hiking, roller skating. I like to do two things at once, definitely a multitasker. So I not only try to listen to all of the case studies, if possible, on 2x while I'm hiking, but I try to do it in any place that I could, like kind of blend technology with old school taking notes. Like I would put the PDFs in Miro so I can highlight it. So now I have everything all in one place. That was a pretty good tip. And then really utilize some of the times if you have something really pressing at work, you can call up the CFs and say, hey, well, not call, take a note to the CFs asking for a little bit of a break. And they're pretty good about giving it to you. And it just comes down to prioritizing things. You do need sleep, you do need exercise. I think those did go down. I am doing a lot more of that after Lead, I will say, but it's worth it to get through it. And I felt like I did too every quarter, and I wanted to finish it. I still have this idea of distinguished scholar maybe in the future, but it's okay. Do it with as you can, and I feel super privileged to be able to do it with a supportive family and peers that help too. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you all sharing your tips. Now, with anything that we all pursue, it's very natural for us to be curious about, will my investment be worth it? And this is also certainly true when you invest in your education and your development. And so I just want to ask the panelists very directly, ultimately, do you feel that the LEAD program was worth your investment? And can you share your thoughts with us on that? Sunny, and we'll go with you first.
I think yes, yes and yes. I only wish, yesterday I was talking to somebody in the event I was on, and they were like, what would you tell the 25-year-old of yourself? What would you tell that person? One wise thing. I said, I wish I knew there was a LEAD program back then. There was none, I guess, but if there was one, I would have done that back then. And obviously, some of the courses which you go through, can give you a light bulb moment within a second. And that one insight is worth the course fee in some cases, because that one insight can change the trajectory of what you're trying to do and what you're doing today into what you want to do. And sometimes it's invaluable. So you can't really weigh that in dollars or any other currency. So that ways, and I have a bunch of those. I have a box full of insights, which I now use. These are, people call it tools. I call it insights. I call it my narratives, which I use in different places. And each of these courses which you select gives you those narratives, those tools, and then based on the situations you are in, you can use them and shine in most cases. And it's not just about you doing well, it's about also making or helping others to do well as well, which is more meaningful in my mind.
Thanks so much, Sunny. Tiffany, how about you?
So I just want to point out that I feel incredibly privileged to have been able to spend an entire year focusing on myself and leadership. I think that it is both a big investment from a time and money perspective, but you get out of it what you put in. So for me, the friendships and networks that I've developed, and the exposure to all different industries has been really worthwhile. I actually feel like I've only scratched the surface of where this can lead. Like I said, I only graduated in the last quarter, so it's difficult to quantify where it will lead. Like in 10 years, like this is 10 years anniversary for Me to We, what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I felt like it helped me be a more well-rounded leader. And it also definitely, I got out of it what I thought I would get out of it, but a lot more. So um, I think that it's that new type of leader, that course is so like it I didn't seek out to take that course, but it was probably the one that changed my course of lead the most, even though I came in for financing innovation and business model analysis and things along that realm. But I feel like it's changed my LinkedIn bio. It's relatable, funny, and it's me because I don't know how else to be. Um, and so I think it's just given me tools that can embrace my authenticity, and I don't know how you put money on that. So
Thanks, Tiffany. And Adrian, how about you?
Sure, it's a straight yes, right? So I utilized even the last quarter, as I said before. I finished in September and I was able to land the job of my dreams in the last quarter. I didn't think about like changing jobs when I started the lead course, but then in the last 2 months, I thought like I have to kind of like connect my potential and then propel it to something else to really find the purpose and connect all the dots. And I was able to do that, and that with the help of the CFs, and that was just like super amazing. And it goes beyond the imagination that I had what lead would actually do to me. And I mean, the curriculum is great. I want to do all the modules that I didn't do so far. I'm so passionate about it. I love to talk about it, and there is still so much more to do. So
Thank you all. Well, a number of the folks on the call with us today are expecting to join LEAD in the near future. And just in a moment, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions from all of you. And I've seen them coming through the chat. Keep those coming. And as a reminder, if you see something that's interesting, go ahead and hit the thumbs up or react to it so that we know to elevate it in the discussion if there is more general interest around it. And then before we get to the Q&A, I just want to ask our panelists one final question that I hope will be particularly useful for the folks that start the program with our next cohort that's starting in March. And we'll go ahead and keep this one brief, you guys, but what's one tip or piece of advice that you would offer to someone who enrolls in LEAD so that they can make the most of their experience? And Tiffany, we'll go with you first.
okay, so my one tip is to be intentional about forming your groups and managing your groups. I think most of the courses require you to create your own groups. The first one, no, you have you're given a group that is kind of in your same geographic location. But I think that putting out a post as to what you expect and what you're going to give in return will attract like-minded people with the similar goals and work styles. I think this is really important to develop trust really quickly. The 8 weeks or so goes by so fast. So you need to make that team dynamic work right away, which will help you in life. Forming teams, you have to do that kind of thing. So trying to use the same kind of things you would with your teams, icebreakers. You can take this one. I asked what superpower would you want and why? And that really sparks fun conversations and helps people open up a bit more. It's really helpful to use your unique abilities to help your team succeed. Don't like shy away. Like if you came to do business only focusing on doing business, I utilize my design background quite frequently to push our team success, push my own success in the courses, and staying organized. Like visual tools like Miro help keep ideas in one place, easily accessible, and still getting out of it what you put in. Put in as much as you can, and it'll just multiply.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Adrian, please go ahead.
So I give you a very practical one, something that came late into my lead experience. At the very beginning, you will have to do a plan, like how you are going to submit your assignments, on what date, and then you have your team that will be accountable together with you for it. And we did Tuesday, so your assignment goes from Wednesday to Wednesday, and we said, like, let's do Tuesday. We want to be finished with everything, and then we have to Wednesday to polish the things. And then you're so exhausted by kind of like hitting that deadline on Tuesday, and then polishing the things maybe goes kind of like blah, blah, blah on Wednesday, and then you're done for Thursday, Friday, and then life hits in on the weekends, and then kind of like stress begins from the beginning. The best advice I got, be done with your assignments on Friday. That might sound crazy, but be done with your assignments on Friday. If you want to polish them, you have your weekends to kind of like put in some free time. It's fun to polish. And then Monday, Tuesday, you might relax, but it gets so much fun that you want to keep on learning after that. So that was the best advice I got, and I would have been happy to get that earlier.
Awesome. And Sunny, go ahead and close this off.
I think those were really nice advice. I'll probably kind of bubble down before you join and decisions you have to make. And once you've joined, what decisions are important. I think the first one is I did my lead program literally for free, right? So I had my organization sponsor it to make sure that I can get in. And that could happen. Once you write your lead application, you would have some executive sponsor in your organization. And trust me, they love to sponsor people going to Stanford. So leverage that. And that not only helped me, my company pay for the program, but it also helped me create relationship at a level which I never had. By just going to them and saying, I'm enrolling in this program, would love to get your feedback on my assignments. Would you do that? And trust me, everybody was, yes, we will. And that was one way for me to connect with leadership in my organization, which was never possible at my position at that time. Number two, once you do these courses, try to see if you can map a course to your current situation in the organization. That way is you'll be able to apply the learnings plus do the assignments which are directly solving problems in your organization. And if that happens, you're basically doing the organizational work. You're working for your company while you're also finishing your assignment. So that's also a way of managing time. Those two are the big ones for me. The third one is the more you give, the more you get. I think people talked about it. It's absolutely true in this case, and in any case or anything in life, the more you invest, the more you get out of it. Yeah.
All great advice. And thank you all so much for sharing your insights. And so we do want to take questions from the audience, and we've been keeping an eye on the chat. Thank you for the great questions that have come through. And I'm seeing a few themes emerge. And so I'll share a few questions that have come up across a few folks. So Blake and Suman had some questions a bit earlier on generally about who the program is right for. Can you speak to sort of on a few different dimensions At what point in your career do you think the LEAD program could be of interest to you? And also the question is this just for corporate executives or managers? Could it be helpful for entrepreneurs? Could you sort of speak generally to who you see this program being most useful to? And I'll open it up to any of our ambassadors that would like to jump in.
I'll jump in. I think there is definitely programs for entrepreneurs. There is the LISA program that helps you incubate your idea. It's a startup incubator in LEAD. I think for me, it is better to be a little bit later in your career. I think right out of college probably wouldn't help as much as if you are a little bit more senior. Maybe even if you're starting to manage a team all the way into the C-suite, because there's different courses for whatever you might want to be passionate about or what you want to focus on right now. And so you kind of pick the courses that map to your own career. So that's mainly what comes to mind when I hear that question.
Great. Sunny and Adrian, anything to add?
I think just one quick note, don't think of LEAD as a program which you do in 1 year and you're done. If you're thinking that way, then you'll not get enough out of it. It's a relationship, and it's a lifelong relationship, because as Tiffany mentioned, you could be in mid of your career today, but 15 years later, you will meet the same cohort or maybe a community of people, and you might be driving an idea with them at that point of time, which is completely, you've not even thought about that today. So LEAD creates the network, which creates different communities, which creates different initiatives, and you start connecting to those initiatives. And it's not about today, it's also about the future. So think from that perspective when you choose the program. And I think that's where the power of networking comes in.
And I think it's exactly what it also does to you. Like, you get so many different perspectives. So it doesn't really matter where you are in your life, because you can, if you are open to really apply it to what you do right now, it will help you and excel you definitely where you are at. So there was a variety of peers I had from diverse sectors, and all of them, I was just amazing to see what LEAD did to them.
Well, that's really helpful. And since you all are focusing a bit on the peer connection, we certainly had a few questions come up in the chat around that piece as well. We had questions from Sanjana, Frederick, and Louise. And the questions are generally based around some curiosity of like, how exactly does the networking happen? Can you give us a few concrete examples of this interaction in the virtual setup, just to give people a sense of how this works? And also, Sanjana asked an interesting question about how you all were able to leverage the new community in your own journeys. And so if you could speak a bit to that concrete piece, and also how you were able to leverage the community.
I can go with that this one first. So I think the first thing first, in terms of communication frameworks, it's amazing that there is a method to this madness, because you might feel that it's madness. How would you communicate with so many people who are a part of your group? You're trying to do a assignment together, and the dependencies that your paragraph depends on the other person's paragraph, and so on and so forth. How do you stay connected? So I think there are tools already in place. The frameworks are already in place. There is Workplace, which is a meta tool. There's Workplace Chat, which people use. Then there is a whole suite of Google Docs or Google tools which people use. And they're all kind of collaboration tools which are well established. So it really makes it super helpful. Then you will also find these offline communities built on things like WhatsApp, and they're like growing like crazy because people are connecting day in, day out, and creating their own groups of things they want to work on. It could be anything to sharing recipes for the next best cake, or going ahead and talking about how can we go and get funding for this idea. And so it's really a thriving community which is organically growing, and that way is LEAD provides I would say the right set of foundations, and then there are catalysts which come and build on top of it to make sure that you can grow in different directions. It's really a community, so you can't really put boundaries to it from that perspective, and that allows you to communicate and go forward as well.
Thanks, Sunny. Tiffany?
Yeah. I would say there's a community for everything. Like there's an improv community, there's a hiking community, there's a business strategy or case studies community. There's there's AI obviously, but there is a community for everything that you might be passionate about. And if there isn't, you can create one. I think that the starting point tends to be workplace, and then sometimes like Sunny said, they spur off into a WhatsApp group. There's a strong community that meets once a month at Stanford, and there's local ones all over the world. I think when people come into town or if you're traveling anywhere, you can reach out and see if there's any leaders in that area and meet up with them. I know there's quite a few in town right now. So I like seeing people in person, and I'm always willing to go grab a coffee with somebody like Harold. He's a CF and a former leader also. I've met up with him a few times. It's really an open community. LinkedIn is a huge way of connecting. I know sometimes even on the Zoom calls, if you say something that is meaningful, people will reach out and try to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's like an inbound kind of phenomenon that has happened. And there's discussion boards where you start talking about a certain subject and you can get into different discussions, and then somehow you find your way into out of the virtual space and into reality. And it's a very thriving community, and it's pretty accessible. Like I'd say even the professors are pretty accessible. LinkedIn is a good place.
On that note, would love to just expand to another question that was in the chat around the accessibility of faculty. Each of the courses in LEAD are of course taught by a GSB faculty member. They're also supported by a team of course facilitators or CFs, as you've heard come up in these conversations, who offer more one-on-one and personalized support and feedback to each of the participants as they're moving through their journeys. Can you all speak to some of these opportunities to interact with the faculty and the teaching teams, and what your experience has been there?
So I can go with this one. So the course facilitators, they're great. There might be harsh at some time, so they give you straight feedback, and it might puzzle you at some points, like what's going wrong here. But then they're there to support you, and they're honest and they're right. So you have to redo your homework, and they push you to the better. So they were always available for me. They were always just a message away, and the CF calls, I tried to be in as many as I could, and they were also like sometimes we had real fun in there, right, Tiffany? With what was it, with Noel? It was such a
Well,
great.
yeah, there was
Yeah.
a goat conversation going on with Noel and one of the
And
course facilitators. Actually, that whole group of course facilitators was so active on both the discussion boards and in our Google Docs. And I think the course facilitators definitely make or break your experience, as well as the peers that are in your group. I think that I've had so many positive experiences with course facilitators, whether they were assigned to me or not. I feel like they're so accessible and willing to help you with any kind of problems you might have, especially during the program. And even now, like after the program is over, they're still very accessible. If you've made that connection, they're part of your network.
supportive, right? So
Mhm.
they help you out whenever they can, post leads. So it's great.
And just another thing quickly to add is these course facilitators in most cases were former leaders.
Mhm.
So you don't just get an opportunity to learn, but you also get an opportunity to teach, which is so amazing. I mean, I would have never thought that I could apply for a course facilitator at Stanford from where I come from. So it feels surreal sometimes, but that's also a reality. So they've gone through the same journeys, and they understand where you come from, and they ensure that you get full support throughout the process.
Thank you all. All right, I want to get to a couple more questions before we wrap up. And Adrian, I'll ask this question directly to you. I know that you're based out of Europe completing the program. And someone, Paulina asked in the chat, how comfortable is it for students from Europe to study in terms of the time zone differences? And I know it's not just Europe. We have folks all over the world on this call that are probably curious about the same. Can you tell us a bit about your experience, your direct experience with that?
So I think so we're spoiled. So I'm Central European time, and I think Lead is really kind of like pointed out to that time. So it's always 6 p.m. that you have to submit your submissions, and that's just great. So you have like the entire day to complete, and then 6 p.m. you're done, and you can even start with the next week. So that's one thing. I mean, of course, you have some live courses that are in the middle of the night that I didn't attend, but this is just kind of like to also like be available for all the leaders around the world. My first group, there was like two guys, one was in Nigeria, one was in Ghana, one was in England, and one in Poland. And that worked out great. And then over time, you get to exchange with more people around the globe. And then, of course, you have to adjust sometimes a little bit for the time zone. But I think I wouldn't want to be in San Francisco having the deadline 9 a.m. in the morning. So I'm really grateful that it works perfectly, or actually pretty good for European time zone. So I felt good about it.
Thanks.
That helped, Pauline.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you said that in the beginning, because we do have some folks that are, curious about how the time zone different works. And when we're in 9 a.m. Pacific time, Stanford time, or in the early afternoon, folks in Europe have put their kids to bed. And for some people, that is the right time for them, right? And for others in Asia Pacific, they work on Lead right when they wake up. And so it just is a matter of how you work it into your schedule. And we certainly do our best to share dates and times, especially for live sessions, well in advance, and to vary those throughout the day to accommodate the different time zones. And just perhaps the last question that I'll ask here is a question asked by Nablina in the chat. They're very interested in applying to the Lead program, but a little anxious about the application process. And of course, we have our application requirements posted on the website, but Nablina was curious to hear from the panelists yourselves if you can share your personal experience regarding that process.
I can
So,
start.
yeah, sure.
So
For me, it was like the first parts were easy, but then at the end comes the video, and I was so embarrassed about that thing, to be honest. I hope that never goes public. But then I think it's not too harsh. So it's the motivation letter. It's the video questions. That was something new for me. And at some point I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I just send it and see what happens. I had enough. But then I was accepted. So.
yeah, I think the interview process is kind of reflective of some of the things which you will learn during the program in some ways as well. So I think it's not about looking at whether you're perfect or not, but whether you're coachable or not. That's my read from the process, right? For instance, as I said earlier, to get executive support from your organization is actually a great move, because then you're reaching out to somebody in your org who is interested or will become interested in your career because they've written a referral application for you to Stanford. That's kind of move number one that gets you right there in front of your leadership. And they know that you're investing in yourself to become a better person, a better leader. So that's kind of the start. And then when you go through the application process, you really think about writing down that one pager with just enough words to ensure that you can talk about what you want to change in your life, in your organization, in the world, because of which you're trying to do the program. And the questions are still fresh in my mind, as Adrian said. Then you end up answering a couple of questions which are asked by professors. It's actually a recording, and then you record your answers. And obviously, you need to look good. No, I'm just kidding. You need to make sure that you're prepared for any questions. And I think even if you're not, and if you fumble, I think you still get the opportunity if you are coachable. And you can get into the program, and then trust me, at the end of the program, you will learn all those skills. And any other interview would be just a breeze from that point
It
on.
would be so funny to kind of like record that question again at the end of lead and then compare it to like how you performed when you started lead. I think it will be a complete difference.
I agree. I agree.
That would be fun. We should do that.
Do it. Okay. Well, thank you again so much. I see that we're up at time, so we really appreciate your time, Tiffany, Sunny, Adrian. And thank you for sharing such great insights and advice. And thanks to everybody who was on this call for your engagement, the great questions that led to a great discussion. So as a reminder, our next cohort will begin the program in March of next year. And we're currently accepting applications. So you do have until February 5th to complete your application, but I do encourage you to apply early. We review applications on a rolling basis. So if you apply early, that gives you a bit more time to prep and plan before the program begins in March. And if you are working through your application, you come across any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. You'll reach myself or one of the folks you see here with lead team in front of our names on the call, and we're happy to help. You can email us at leadadmissions@stanford.edu, and I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat for you as well. So we're looking forward to staying in touch with all of you, learning a bit more about you as you complete your applications for the program, and hope to welcome you to LEAD and the Stanford GSV community very soon. And thank you again, everyone. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and stay in touch. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.